Welcome everybody to the USUK Podcasting Network YouTube channel. This week we have the 11th edition of USUK Chronicles, and here is our interview with Mr. Jay Harvey. Jay Harvey is a social media manager, ambassador, but basically looks after the social media for the For Love of Wrestling conventions here in the good old UK, working with Monopoly events. This is a really fun conversation, learning all about the convention, his role at the convention, and just the awesome things they do there for us wrestling fans. So watch and then go buy a ticket to the event because it looks like it's going to be a badass show. Anyway, enjoy and Happy New Year.
Wonderful. Right, I shall get us started then.
Well, you guys, is this being recorded like video and audio, or are you just recording the audio on this?
Video and audio. We normally release the YouTube. You release it on YouTube a couple of days after the audio version goes out.
Okay, perfect. Great. That's good to know.
We like to mix things up a little bit. Give our audience both so they can look at our pretty faces as well.
Exactly. I'm glad for it then, anyway.
Right. Guys and girls, today we have a guest unlike any we've had before. Now, it's safe to say the one thing people in pop culture world have missed most in 2020 are our Comic-Cons, our exhibitions, our events. And joining us today, we have a man who works for one of the #1 exhibition companies here in the good old UK. From Monopoly events, we have a man who will make every wrestling fan jealous. Today, we have with us from Monopoly events, as I said, Mr. Jay Harvey.
Hello, gentlemen. Oh, sorry, I'm applauding myself there. I do apologise.
That's I know. It's fine. I understand.
I'm amazing. Welcome me to your show.
I would have done the same thing, to be fair. So, James, how's your year been, man?
Do you know what? It's been a weird one. It started really quite well because I'm involved with a few of the conventions that Monopoly do. Primarily, I'm involved with For Love of Wrestling, but because I'm cheeky, I like to volunteer at all the other ones as well and get in with them. So we started the year off quite well. We did, I say we, Andy was the boss of Monopoly events. We did a Comic-Con Liverpool, which was an absolutely incredible way to start the year. We had over... I forget his name now. The police officer from Stranger Things. Is it Hopper?
Oh, yes.
David Harbour.
Yeah, David Harbour. So David Harbour was one of the guests. We had Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We had Elijah Wood from Lord of the Rings, which was quite cool. Or for me, because he was in Green Streets, because I like my football films. So that was really cool. So I got to look after the cast of American Pie for the weekend. So that was like, and so it wasn't a bad way to start the year. And I was like, my God, this can only get better from here. Little did I know where we were going to go. No, it started very, very well. As I say, we had some amazing and phenomenal guests there over the weekend. And then, obviously, from there, it's sort of gone downhill. I think the game's changed, so to speak. Monopoly Events prides itself on putting on, I think it's like 8 to 10 conventions a year, and they are really 5-star conventions. This year, they've had to sort of change what they do and try and find another way to sort of entertain people through, sign-ins, doing virtual events, virtual quizzes, those type of things. So it's been a really, really weird year. Some of it's been good. I think, you guys as well, I think a lot of people have turned into this. This time last year, had any of us heard of Zoom? Probably not. Now I see my mates once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, and we all get together on Zoom and have a good chat. So there's been some positives to this year. I won't say it's been a terrible year, but looking forward to the rest of the year and then seeing what happens next year. It sounds like brighter things are ahead.
Fingers crossed, because obviously they've said the vaccine is now here.
Yes.
But obviously it's prioritised with key workers and stuff, so who knows when it actually gets to us.
The vaccine's here, which is great. Donald Trump is shortly not to be here, which again might make the situation in America a little bit better as well, because I'm sure for anybody involved in conventions, America getting this under control is just as important as us getting this under control.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All guests can't get here, basically, so that's the big problem. So Biden's coming in and Biden's talking a lot about some of the things he wants to do. He's starting to talk a little bit about doing a lot of the stuff that we've experienced over here in the UK. See what effect that has. See if we can not only get fans back to conventions, get fans back to wrestling as well, which is like my big love. Yeah,
that'd be absolutely unbelievable.
Definitely.
So with your when you've been in lockdown stuff, then what have you been doing with yourself to keep yourself busy?
Well, What have I been doing myself? We've got we started something up, which was quite fun actually. We started doing For Love of Wrestling TV, so it was almost like a monthly TV show where we'd interview someone from the wrestling world, just have a bit of a chat, similar to what I'm doing with you guys now on Zoom. So that's taken off. We've been doing a load of online quizzes, keeping the social media game really, really high. Other than that, just your normal everyday stuff. Going for lots of walks because that's like the only thing that you can do this year. So. I've walked around more golf courses and park this year than I have in the previous 40 years of my life. Yeah. So yeah, good stuff. It's been okay. It's been okay.
Good.
Wonderful. Now, obviously, we've said Monopoly Events is a huge company and hosts a massive amount of these events across the country. I was quite surprised when I went on the website to see just how many events you guys do. Yeah. It's quite shocking. Like full of wrestling, full of horror. There's Liverpool, Scott, so many. But what exactly is your role in the company?
Do you know, it's a great question, and it's one that I was asking myself. I've just come from the office, funnily enough, from the Monopoly office, and it's one of those. I thought I knew you'd ask that question. I thought, well, what actually is my role? I'd say first and foremost that I manage the social media for Full of Wrestling. So all of the content you see on social media, Facebook, some of the Instagram stuff, all that type of stuff, I manage that on a daily basis. Present the live shows that we do them as well. I'm involved in some of the guest announcements, and just over the last few weeks, I've been trying to get a little bit more involved to see sort of how the booking of guests and things go. I'm generally just a bit of a consultant. So Andy's a wrestling fan who's like the big boss. Some of the other guys involved are sort of wrestling fans. I suppose they see me as a bit more of sort of. Someone described me as an encyclopedia the other day, which was quite. I'm sure it's a compliment. Not that I'm boring and I belong on a shelf. I'm sure that's not what they meant. So I suppose in a weird way, sort of social media manager stroke wrestling consultant. I don't even think wrestling consultant's a job that exists in the world. So I'm probably the first wrestling consultant in the world. So yay me. But no, social media manager, just do bits and bobs.
The Full of Wrestling Facebook page is absolutely amazing. I love some of the things you post on there that just flashbacks to when I was a kid. I love that page. So to know you run that's amazing.
And you know what? It's fun because my wife must hate me because I'm like you guys. I listen to sort of quite a lot of wrestling podcasts. Love things like Something to Wrestle With and. Big fan of the Wrestler Review, which is probably a little less known one. I think it's by two Canadian comedians. If you're sort of not afraid of like a little bit of close to the bone stuff, they're fantastic. And I really like that sort of storytelling where they run through people's careers. So every time sort of something that I think, I didn't know that, or I remember that, I'll literally just save a picture on my phone, and then I know somewhere down the line I need to post that on the page because it's interesting. So I'd love to say it's all my content, but I just steal it all from different podcasts. Thanks very much to you all. I'm like the laziest social media manager in the world, just everything.
So how did you even get into conventions then? Where did it all begin for you?
When I was born, a small boy, obviously, but no, it's really weird. I've been a wrestling fan for 30 odd years. Now, like every wrestling fan in the world, I think I know everything. That's like the first rule of wrestling club. You have to know everything at all times. And so a couple of years ago, I've been collecting wrestling merchandise, and that's not one of the other things I do for Full of Wrestling. I exhibit there as well. I've got one of the biggest collections in Europe of wrestling merchandise, sort of really, really crazy stuff. I think I've got about 50 odd pay-per-view chairs and just all sorts of stuff from like the last. Yeah, my recent purchase was one from WrestleMania 10, which is like the holy grail of wrestling chairs. Sorry, I just picked, really crazily enough, on Undertaker. I call it Undertaker Sunday, Survivor Series Sunday. Somebody that week had offered me a chair from the Hell in the Cell when Taker threw Mankind off. And obviously, like everybody else in the country, I had Taker fever. I was like, yes, I will definitely be having that. Thank you very much. But no, I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years, and then I started to hear about this thing called Full of Wrestling, and I was like, well, I don't really know what that is. And I realised that the first two announcements, was Ric Flair and Bret Hart. I was like, wow, that's not a bad way to sort of launch yourself. And then, like you do, I was like, well, I became a little bit suspicious. I was like, well, let's find out a little bit more of that. So I started just dropping them a couple of emails saying, look, I've got this wrestling collection. Would you be interested in me exhibiting it? And they were like, they thought it was fantastic. Sent them a few pictures. They thought it was exactly what they were looking for. So I've been working with the guys, Andy and the rest of Jason and the rest of the team now for sort of 2 years. And They just seem to have a fantastic ethos, and not just at Full of Wrestling, but at all the Monopoly events. Andy's sort of ethos is by the fans, for the fans. And I suppose, again, not blowing smoke up my own backside, I suppose I'm a perfect example of that. I've been a fan for 30 years, and gradually I've been getting a little bit more involved here and there with the convention. I exhibit there. Andy and Jason will ring me every now and again and go, what do you think of this guest? What do you think of this person? Look, we've been offered X, Y, and Z. Which two people should we pick? So they really, really do believe in that ethos of making sure that the Full of Wrestling has the right guests. And you can see that with sort of the lineups we've had over the last, the lineup we had last year and the lineup we've got going forward for next year as well. What else have we done? I'm trying to think. Oh, we did as well as Full of Wrestling. I'm sure you'll come on to this. We did an event in Germany last year with The Undertaker. In Dusseldorf, called the Undertaker Experience, and that was quite cool because I'm sure if you guys like me have grown up as wrestling fans, you know that the German fans have got this massive reputation of being almost as passionate as us. Bret Hart talks a lot about the German wrestling fans in his book and how passionate they are. So we sort of went over there because Germany in itself doesn't get a lot of wrestling attention or pay-per-views or conventions. So you can imagine the response when we sort of like went, yeah, we're going to bring over the Undertaker. Is that okay? And the response was, there was a lot of ja danke going on. So that's probably how I became involved with him. I was started as a fan, offered to exhibit, and now sort of do a few bits and bobs for him.
That's awesome. Because I said before we started this, I naturally assumed that you worked for them originally, not that you were like, hey, do you want to show my stuff off? And then got along with them so well, you started working with them. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's, like I say, it's been a great relationship that I've built with them. So much so that I now volunteer and work at their other events because I'm so pleased with what they do. I think it's fantastic. And of course it means, maybe getting to hang out with the Undertaker in Germany, which isn't the worst way to spend a weekend.
No.
Got to interview sort of, like you guys, I like to tinker in I like to tinker in podcasts. I do like my own little vlog thing, that Full of Wrestling TV. So when I got to interview Eric Bischoff at the show last year, that was like just a really cool moment for me. Just sort of interviewing Eric Bischoff and just sort of chat there. And, as you sort of know where Eric Bischoff is and his history in media and stuff like that, that was like just a really cool thing to do. So yeah, it's cool. It's been really, really beneficial for me. And I try and put as much back in as I get out, really.
That's just so awesome. I'd love to meet Eric Bischoff, but the only problem I'd have is all I'd think in my head when talking to him is, I'm back. I'd just be like in my head the whole time.
That's what you do when you meet Ted DiBiase. You just sort of talk to Ted DiBiase long enough for him to laugh, and you actually realise that $1 Million Man laugh, it's like pretty much his normal laugh, which is both creepy and absolutely amazing.
So, obviously, you've mentioned it. It's safe to say you are a massive wrestling fan. So, obviously, where did that come from?
I can pinpoint the day as well. I remember coming in on a Saturday. We were one of the. I'm talking. It must be 1889. So the year is 89, and it's just when Sky BSB had just sort of started to get really big in this country. And they used to have like Superstar. I think it was Superstars of Wrestling on a Saturday on Sky One, Wrestling Challenge on a Sunday on Sky One, and you used to get the odd main event on a Saturday night as well on maybe Eurosport, Sky Sport. This is back in the day when they used to show the pay-per-views on Sky Movies. This is like proper long time ago. And I remember just flicking over to Sky one day, and I remember it was like a big boss man against Barry Horowitz on Wrestling Challenge, and I was like, "What in the hell is this?" I was a big gamer growing up as well, so I loved the Turtles, and I'm like, it was almost that moment when you first play like Turtles on the NES. You just like, what in God's name is this? And like, you just become so obsessive over it very quickly. And I think almost my first pay-per-view, not long after, was SummerSlam 90, and like SummerSlam 90 just as a pay-per-view in itself. They started building SummerSlam 90 probably in around January 1990, some of the feuds. Obviously, you had the big Earthquake versus Hogan thing and Hogan disappearing after he got crushed on Brother Love show. It was like so many other amazing feuds. You had I think it was probably my first oh my God moment when I realised I was going to be a fan for life was the Texas Tornado against Mr. Perfect match at SummerSlam 90.
Yes.
And I was just like, that was like my first OMG moment. I was just like, my good God. And I knew from then. And then I think they followed it up like a couple of matches later with the Hart Foundation against Demolition, the best out of 2, 3 falls. I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. Rick Rude made the Ultimate Warrior actually look like he could wrestle at that particular pay-per-view. From start to finish, it's just one of the most perfect pay-per-views. And like now, when you watch wrestling now, it'll get to the headline match and they'll probably put on like a 3 or 4 minute promo just telling you everything that's happened over the last 6 months. That pay-per-view, you had one of those promos for every single match. And that's when wrestling was back to sort of long-term storytelling. So yeah, that's probably really how long, and I've never looked back since.
Incredible. It is a wonderful event. I had that on VHS when I was a kid. I love that event. I can still picture the cover in my head of the 4 blocks, and
that's it. That's the one. Yeah.
So you mentioned about like you showing your collection off at the first For the Love of Wrestling. Was that the first convention where you showed your collection off, or have you done other events?
Yeah, well, no, that's the first one, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, the wrestling conventions in this country haven't had the best reputation. And I just mean like just some of them got announced and then didn't go ahead. Some of them they happened once and then didn't happen again. And it always very much stop and start. I don't really feel like Europe's ever had like a proper, really well established wrestling convention. Whereas For Love of Wrestling is obviously becoming that very, very, very quickly. No, so it was to be honest, was it my first? No, because WrestleMania was before. So I went to New York for Mania last year, did WrestleCon over the weekend. So that's not a bad place to start as a wrestling convention. That's really, really cool place. And then came back and did For Love of Wrestling over here. For me, and I know I'm completely biased, some people will obviously say WrestleCon's better because it's got 100 and odd guests. But I think for me, as much as I love WrestleCon, and I got to meet Jake the Snake, who's like probably one of my all-time heroes, For Love of Wrestling offers so much more. Of course, you've got your meet and greets, but you've also got live wrestling shows, but you've also got exhibits. For Love of Wrestling also has prop builds. So we're going to have the Firefly Funhouse next year. This year we had Money in the Bank and we had the old main event prop build as well. There's also Q&As. So every single guest that comes to For Love of Wrestling, unless for any reason he can't do, like The Undertaker couldn't do one, every guest that comes to For Love of Wrestling, they're interviewed in a wrestling ring in the middle of the convention, and that's completely free. So you almost, if you get yourself a weekend ticket, you can almost watch 20 to 30 wrestlers do an hour Q&A, and it's completely free and included with your, with your ticket price. Some people just literally just come and pay, and they just sit there for a weekend, and they absolutely have the time of their lives. So for me, as I loved WrestleCon, I really, really did. I got to meet Jake the Snake, quite a few other guys as well. Scarlett Bordeaux got to meet at WrestleCon. If you're familiar with Scarlett Bordeaux, that was one ticked off the list. Wanted to meet Scarlett for ages. But no, I think For Love of Wrestling just offers. I think For Love of Wrestling for me is the best in the world at the moment. That's why I enjoy it so much.
Do you think it's better because it's not like you're not jam-packing so many people into one, so it's more, you obviously don't have the variety of people, but how do I explain it? Like, you say restaurants got like 100 guests or so, whereas obviously you get about 20 to 30 people. I think that's better because you're not like, oh, there's this person, and there's this person, and I got to go there, and then I got to go here, whereas you just go, I think...
WrestleCon does get, and I loved when I go back to Mania, because I'll be going back to the next Mania, certainly when I go there again, I will definitely go to WrestleCon, because for me, WrestleCon appeals to me more than Access. I still class myself as a golden era fan, if that for me is the peak era. So I will definitely go to WrestleCon again. I loved it, but yes, they have got 100 and odd guests there, but some of the guests are people like the Kiss Demon and people like, so there are 100 and odd guests there. How many of them you would class as like really top rated, like wrestling guests? I don't know. Whereas, and that's pretty much it. And like I remember walking around and having a chat with like Greg the Hammer Valentine and then Coco Beware and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people just sort of around, just stood doing nothing. And that always makes me feel a bit uncomfortable at conventions. Whereas I think For Love of Wrestling, they try and book the best guests, and they'll get as many as they can, but the guests that they think everyone's going to be really, really interested in for the whole weekend. So yeah, I think, and there's so much more going on as well, and it's so family orientated as well. So like I say, some people buy an entry ticket, they come in, they plonk themselves down, they watch 10 Q&As on the Saturday, then they come back Sunday, they do exactly the same, and they have the absolute time of their lives. And again, just because For Love of Wrestling's thought outside of the box, they don't just get Ric Flair on stage and interview him and then get Kevin Nash. Last year we had a golden era Q&A, so it was like DiBiase and Virgil, Brutus, Marty Jannetty and Bret Hart on the Saturday. Obviously, the place was jam-packed for that one. And then on Sunday, for me, it was probably the best Q&A I saw, was the WCW one. So it was Bischoff, The Outsiders, Flair, Booker T. They did one as well. So, and again, that was one that was absolutely jam-packed. So you would, for me, that WCW, I'd pay good money to just go and watch that alone. To get that for free when I've entered a convention. Yeah. I mean, it's just like crazy. And like I say, with the exhibitions, there's cosplay competitions, there's loads of stalls selling like merchandise and wrestling stuff. I think the way Andy wants it to be, next year we're moving to, it was on 2 days this year. Sorry, 2 days last year. Next year it's moving to 3 days because we're going to have a wrestling show on the Friday night, put on by the lovely guys at TNT Extreme. Yeah. And then on the Saturday night, we're going to have Future Shock doing a wrestling show as well. So the long-term plan is, I imagine, like a festival of wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Just a 3-day festival of wrestling. That
would be insane.
Yeah, everyone's so happy.
that exactly. You just go there, and it's a lot of work, but it's so nice to just be around 15,000 wrestling fans for the weekend, because they're all in like having the best time of their life. They're all meeting the heroes, and you just sort of, you have the time of your life for 3 days, and then you walk away from it. You're on top of the world for weeks because you just had such an enjoyable time and just so much positivity around the place. And you get to meet. So he was an amazing guest last year. And I have got a tendency to waffle, so please just tell me to shut the hell up when you.
Please continue.
People really surprise you. Like Bischoff really surprised me, how just how nice and well mannered and how like inviting he was for a conversation. But Rob Van Dam, like I don't know what I expected from Rob Van Dam. I thought he'd be cool, but I thought he might be in character. But he's like the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. I saw him spending like about 15 minutes with one old lady who brought her daughter with him just so they could because she was a big Rob Van Dam fan. And then I took over one of the my one night only chair. You know, he fought Cena. He beat Cena. So I took over my chair from then, and we had a chat about them. He said he's got a couple in his garage. He spent like minimum of 3 or 4 minutes with every single person because they knew some of those people had come to meet Rob Van Dam. And you meet people like that, and you just think, Jesus Christ, you're such a gentleman. It makes it all worthwhile. We'll talk about the WWE Superstars event as well in a minute, because that's another. Are you guys familiar with that event?
Yeah. When you do the signing events when they come over to
Yes. So we did that. So when the WWE tour now in the UK, we've only done it once, to be fair, but they've only toured once in the UK. Monopoly now do another event called WWE Superstars. So that was amazing. Last year we got 12 of the WWE's finest over. So we had the Bullet Club with Anderson and Gallows and AJ Styles. Who else did we have?
Kevin Owens,
Bray Wyatt we had over there as well. Kevin Owens we got there as well. We had Drew McIntyre as well. Sasha Banks over there as well. Of course, we had Seth Rollins and Becky there as well. So I mean, it's not a bad lineup, in sort of to have as well. So it just seems to be going from strength to strength, and like the UK wrestling scene as a whole seems to be growing at a rate of absolute knots. And I'm not sure if you guys caught the documentary called Step Into Wrestling by Paige, her brother. He made it recently. Step Into the Ring, sorry, it was called. So he's made a series of documentaries with BBC. They're on iPlayer at the moment, called Step Into the Ring, and it's a really great documentary series. But the UK wrestling scene's never been bigger, and long may it continue.
No, the UK scene is incredible at the minute. And I think that has brought a lot of fans to the forefront. So things like For the Love of Wrestling can happen.
Yeah.
Because it's not so much of I sit in my house, I watch WWE, and I don't mention it when I go outside.
Well, exactly. Being a wrestling fan used to be a dirty little secret in the corner of the playground, isn't it? Yeah. It's like everything, like convention scenes as a whole, like call it geek chic, call it whatever you like. Conventions are cool now, and it's fantastic that we're here to witness that.
Yeah,
it really is.
Absolutely agreed. So have you had any, for example, next year, obviously you've got Shawn Michaels, which is just blowing my mind. So I am going to be there for Shawn. But do you have any like contractual? Because obviously he works with NXT at the moment, doesn't he? So, and it's got Jeff Hardy as well. Have there been any issues like contract-wise of whether they're still under contract with WWE at all?
Well, no. And this is the thing. The reason why Monopoly Events guest list look like it does is because Monopoly and WWE work together.
Oh, okay.
Relationship. So the Undertaker event that was in Dusseldorf last year, that was with the WWE as well, and the Undertaker and everything else. So no. So yeah, you've mentioned it there. I mean, we're waiting for obviously because the dates have now changed and Corona's all up in the air. We are waiting for every other guest to sort of reconfirm as such. But the lineup at the moment, the five that have 100% reconfirmed are JBL, Jeff Hardy, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, and Trish Stratus. I mean, it's not a bad five to start off with, that is it?
I was going to say, you can't argue for them five originally.
No. But I mean, the guys that we're waiting for to confirm are people like the Dudley Boys, Demolition, Torrie Wilson, on there as well. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of just, it's a phenomenal lineup that they've got planned for next year.
So obviously last year was the first for the Love of Wrestling event.
Yeah.
What a lineup there was that year. It is insane. I was gutted I couldn't make it. I really was. If there's people listening to this who, you know, they don't know much about the convention, can you just give us a reminder? What was there last year? Who was there?
Oh, so the lineup last year was absolutely crazy. I mean, it's sort of one of those lineups that was a little bit difficult to believe it was actually as good as it was. So the guests that you're talking about last year were, I'll just give you a bit of a rundown. Apologies. I've got a list here, so I'll give you them all. We had Pete Dunne, who came over from NXT for us. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Scott Hall, Ted DiBiase, Marty Jannetty, Sid Justice, RVD, Virgil, Brawler, Eric Bischoff, Kevin Nash, Tennille came over, Summer Rae, Jimmy Hart, Kelly, Booker T, Christian, Bret Hart, Ric Flair, Letha, Chris Jericho, Bruce the Barber Beefcake, and some guy called The Undertaker. So, I mean, it was all right.
And keep in mind what I just said. The first event.
The first one, yeah. I did sort of...
Not like, it's our 10th year, let's go all out.
Yeah.
The first one.
But I mean, when they launched it with Bret Hart and Ric Flair, I was like, what is this? And how do I get involved in this?
I'm not going to... The cynic in when I first saw it announced, I was like, the first convention, and they got these two names to start off. This can't be real. This has got to be a scam. It's not right. No way.
No, exactly. I think it sort of felt... I think that's half the reason I sent the email, to try and find out a little bit more. I was like... Because my guy's Bret Hart. Like pretty much since SummerSlam 90, Bret Hart's always been my guy. So when I knew Bret Hart was coming over, I was like, I think that's one of the reasons. I was like, surely I would have heard about it if Bret Hart was coming over. You know, like, because I pretend we're really best mates, but like the guy doesn't have who I am. He was text me to let me know he was booked, but no. But he's no. So that was half the thing. But yeah, I mean. And then you started announcing The Undertaker, and like that was it then. Even people who were fully on board with the idea, when The Undertaker got announced, they were like, no, this is a total scam. Undertaker doesn't do conventions. He's certainly not coming to the UK to do a convention. But obviously they had the Monopoly work very well with Inside the Ropes. I'm sure you guys are familiar with them as well. Yeah. So he came over and worked with us, and then did an Inside the Ropes tour as well with Kenny and the guys. So yeah, last year was just phenomenal. And they said they couldn't beat it this year, but I mean, Jeff Hardy just hasn't done a convention over here ever. I mean, who in the hell doesn't want to meet Trish Stratus? Shawn Michaels. I mean, Kurt Angle, Jay. I mean, I don't know what they do next year. This is the problem, and like the year after and the year after, because to keep making it this big, they keep coming up with crazy ideas. But no, the lineups are absolutely phenomenal.
So you mentioned the Dusseldorf tour with The Undertaker for the weekend. How did they ask you to do that, or did you have to fight for it, like fight to the death, or draw straws? How was
No, and I think sometimes this is why, like, Andy lets me do some work from. I think I just pecked the head in until he sort of. I just sort of mentioned no. So I literally said to Andy last year, look, you're going over. I know he obviously has volunteers at all his conventions. I said, do you need volunteers over there? He said, "Why are you going to be in Dusseldorf at the time?" I said, "Well, I certainly can be." So yeah, I just bought my flights, went over there, and got to work with The Undertaker for the weekend and sort of hang out with him, go to a few bars with him, which is in itself one of the craziest things that you could. I mean, if you've ever tried to explain into a doorman in a German discotheque at 1 o'clock in the morning that it isn't a tribute act and it is actually the Undertaker, it's like, some of the most surreal moments I've ever had in my life. And I was like, he's like 6'10". I was like he's not a tribute act. Like the Undertaker tribute acts are like 6'4", 6'5". But yeah, it's weird, surreal, phenomenal, and I can't thank Monopoly Events enough for letting me do that. It was so cool, so much fun.
Wasn't Kane there as well?
No, Kane was meant to be there, but he had some mayoral business and he missed his flight. I know, right? I mean, like, wants to be mayor but can't even catch a fly. What's that about?
Who says Knox County is more important?
I know, exactly. So no, he was meant to be there, but didn't come. But I'll tell you what, there's a pro and a con to that. The con was obviously that people didn't get their Brothers of Destruction picture, which a lot of people had come for. However, as to apologise for that, Undertaker did his first ever Q&A panel, so he actually took questions from the audience, and in his 30-year career he had never done that, and to actually be sat there and for him to answer it as Mark Calloway rather than the Undertaker, to see his first ever Q&A, I was just like blown away. Obviously the one, like, there was like 99 people with their hands up and 98 wanted to ask about the streak, so that question came straight out around, you know, was it his idea or not, and he was very honest and said that he and it's the first time I think he's ever confirmed it. He said he wanted to, if it was his decision, he would have preferred to retire with the streak intact. He was very proud of it. However, he wanted to do what was best for business. And I mean, anybody that was disappointed about Kane not being there very, very, very quickly forgot about that, because they knew they were seeing something completely unique and something that money can't buy, because he wasn't meant to do that. That's not what people were paying for. So yeah, it was a really special weekend for a lot of reasons. That's amazing.
Did you want the streak to break or not?
Did I not? No, I think it was almost the last true good and honest thing that we had of the golden era remaining. I mean, I'm sure Ric Flair and Terry Funk have got about 18 retirement matches left in them. But for me, no. I thought he'd earned it, but then again, there's also the argument as by coming back every year, you're making your boss make the decision. So maybe if at 20 and 0 he'd have gone, do you know what? If I retire now, I can retire with the greatest WrestleMania streak ever. Every time he came back after that, you're giving Vince McMahon a decision. So
yeah,
you know, I don't know if you guys have watched that Last Ride documentary.
Yes. Yeah.
Just outstanding.
Yeah.
He talks about it there, and it almost seems like he was all after that Triple H match in the Hell in a Cell, WrestleMania 28 or something, I think it was.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit later than that. It almost seemed like after that he was looking for that moment, and you're never going to get to that moment again. And I think he sort of chased it. And I mean, the Brock Lesnar match was crap anyway, but that was no way to end the streak. And then obviously the Roman Reigns match, for me, I don't think any match after the Triple H Hell in a Cell, I don't think that added anything. Even if he'd got to 35-0 or 40, I think we'd seen them. I mean, he peaked at, WrestleMania 25 with Shawn Michaels. I mean, that's
what he wanted, wasn't it? He wanted to go out on a match like that, and it weren't going to happen.
No, and his body wasn't in a condition to put on a match like that. So was it short-sighted on his part? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but like, but it's up to him. He gets to make decisions. And it's even like now people saying, "Oh, he should have retired years ago." He's earned retiring when he wants to retire. Do you know what I mean? And he if we have to sit through another 17 super shows, he's earned that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and do you know what really, really strangely is? I think he was always looking for that moment in the ring, and I think what the Last Ride documentary series gave him was almost that final moment, that really, really wonderful moment, as well as the Boneyard match as well, which was very cool. It was different. It was very memorable. I'm sure we'll be thinking we'll talk about that for years to come.
I think I would have liked to have seen him fight AJ one-on-one, just normally. I think that would have been another classic personally, but like I said, his body and his age now is starting to slowly catch up to him. So I think he's gone at the right time. But like the documentary was absolutely phenomenal.
It was one. It was wonderful. And when they brought out the other two documentaries as well, the one. I'm a grown man, but I don't mind it. The Paul Bearer one did bring a tear to my eye that I watched over the Undertaker weekend. I think it is literally called the Paul Bearer documentary, which is absolutely amazing. And then the Brothers of Destruction one as well, which is almost just like them two sat opposite each other, having sort of like a 45-minute conversation. But yet, for me, and I know there's a little bit of a downer on wrestling this year. Everyone's going, oh, wrestling's been crap this year, no crowds. I think it's forced a lot of wrestling companies to think a bit differently. Mm-hmm. I don't think we would have got cinematic matches before. And I think, if there's one thing that's come out of WWE this year as a complete success, it's their documentaries. They've been absolutely outstanding. Even after I watched the Drew McIntyre, I think it was the 24 one after SummerSlam or something like that. And even that one, it was brilliantly done. Their documentary game is absolutely amazing at the moment. So again, it's things you can take as positive. And do you know what? The AEW situation. I mean, we can probably talk about Sting coming out of retirement the week after, sort of going into retirement. That's a bit of a weird one. But AEW, I think on a weekly, if I've watched both shows over the course of this year. Personally, I think AEW have put out a better TV product. Personally, it's kept me a lot more interested. But I think that's because AEW are trying to squeeze everything that they've got into 2 hours of TV, whereas WWE are trying to squeeze everything they've got into about 17 hours of TV. There's just absolutely no reason for WWE Raw to be 3 hours long.
Nope.
You sometimes you sit there going, oh Christ, not again. Whereas you look for 2 hours is manageable. It's like a football match in it, 2 hours. So it's very, very manageable. But for me, AEW has been a huge success this year. Loved watching it. I can't wait to see what happens moving forward. Butcher and the Blade for me, just stand out. I know the AEW tag team division is very good anyway, but for me, they've really caught my eye this year. The Butcher and the Blade.
They've got some phenomenal talent on there, to be fair.
Really
some people I've never heard of, and then other people that have gone, you might have heard of me before, but look what I can do. Look what I can really do.
And there's people... Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it's been phenomenal. And the one that stood out for me the most is Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
What are absolutely incredible.
Yeah. They have been they're absolutely fantastic. MGF as well. Now, I know everybody's saying that MGF is he's just a Miz rip-off, but then you could argue that, well, is Miz just a bit of a Mr. Perfect rip-off? Is Mr. Perfect a bit of a Ravishing Rick Rude rip-off? It goes back, and it all goes back to sort of Playboy Buddy Rose and Adrian Adonis and those type of people. I mean, that arrogance gimmick's been around, longer than a wrestling ring. So everybody's always copying somebody, aren't they? Taking theirs. So, but no, MGF for me, I think he's entertaining, and that I'm a Family Guy fan, so I like Family Guy and that dance routine MJF and Jericho did. It just reminded me of those sketches that like Peter and Stewie used to do, and or Peter and Brian used to do. So it cracked me up. I loved it. And I was reading yesterday that MJF and Chris Jericho dance sketch has actually been put up by the New York Post for like a nomination of one of the best performances of the year. So that tells you. Yeah. So that's really cool. So yeah, going it's the strangest things to put. Again, it's something that we wouldn't have had. I don't think they would have done it if we had crowds. So this year's forced everybody to think differently, which is a good thing.
Yeah, what I love as well about Chris Jericho is that he always seems to smash out the park with every single character he has.
Yeah,
he's at 50 years old now, and he's still just absolutely killing it. And I think WWE missed a massive beat letting him go. Really do.
You've sort of got to look at Chris Jericho and go, what's he done recently? The man got a clipboard over.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that's why it's always been my favourite.
Yeah, you've seen some people have great gimmicks that perhaps haven't worked. Maybe like the narcissist Lex Luger. That in the right hands, that's a gimmick that should have worked. But Lex just wasn't up to the job. Whereas Chris Jericho can get a clipboard over. I mean, the man is... And I think this is where I hope further down the line we do really give Chris Jericho the credit he deserves. He was never really the guy anywhere he's been. And perhaps he doesn't get held up there with the Shawn Michaels, with the Bret Hart, the Takers, the Hogans, the Flairs. But he deserves to be in that conversation.
Definitely.
For me.
Absolutely agree with you. So do you get involved in any of the other conventions then, bar the wrestling side, so like Comic-Con Liverpool or Scotland or anything like that at all?
Yeah, like I said, I volunteer at as many of them as possible. I like to keep me nose in because I like to know what guests are being booked. Like I said, I've just come from the office now, and we've been doing a lot of work on getting all of the merch from previous conventions. So today I've been looking at all the merch signed by like Danny Trejo, the For Love of Horror stuff, loads of Brian Blessed stuff, and like the Flash Gordon stuff. But yeah, I like to volunteer at the festival. For Love of Wrestling's like my place. That's where I fit in. But no, I volunteer at all the other events when I can. Like I say, I got to work with the American Pie guys this year, which was so cool. And like, you know, the guy who plays the Shermanator, you know, like the red-headed lad, like he was just like the sweetest guy in the world, and they were all really nice. So that was just an absolute pleasure. And I'm a Hobbit fan and Lord of the Rings fan, so meeting Elijah Wood was really cool as well. And the guys, Peter Weller, I forget the other gentleman's name, the guys who do the voices for Optimus Prime and Megatron as well, they were there. So getting to meet them as well. And what was really interesting is, I'm not sure if you guys are Transformers fans, but he let a secret out for Love of Comic Con this year, and he said that he told us, which I thought, I sort of like buzzed off it for a few days afterwards, that he did the same voice for Soundwave in Transformers. He used the exact same voice for Soundwave in Transformers as he does as the Claw in Inspector Gadget the cartoon. And it's just, I love little things like that. You know, just like little tidbits and little facts.
That's amazing.
That's an amazing little fact, isn't it? Yeah, I thought.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. Yeah. When you're a kid, though, you don't realise that's the same person.
No, do you? How can he does? I think he does voices for Scooby Doo, and he does voices for all sorts. When you see, like, he does absolutely everything. But it was great to do them, and at the end of, I think it's the end of the second Transformers movie when Megatron and Prime are arguing, and Optimus Prime says he won't harm the humans and goes into that spiel about humanity and all that sort of stuff. He did that live on stage, that entire speech, and honestly, the way it had screens all around the conventions, and then all of the Q&As for that particular convention were going on upstairs in like the auditorium. And honestly, the whole convention just came to a stop. Everything just stopped. And Peter Weller doing that speech, it was incredible because even all the guests. So I was sat there with, like Nadia from American Pie, the foreign girl who, yes. So I was looking after her for the weekend, and with the guy, the whole convention just stopped, and everybody just screamed it, and it was almost like this incredible moment that, again, nobody expected, nobody turned up for that, and it was almost like everybody experienced it at the same time. And literally, after that, you just saw a massive spring in everybody's step. Everybody was automatically having one of the best days of their life. So that's why I volunteer at these conventions. That's what they're about.
It's incredible. So we're talking about For the Love of Wrestling.
Yeah.
How much work goes into these shows?
Like, God.
Obviously, I'd assume you're helping organising next year's event. So how much goes into with the guests and the props and all that sort of stuff? How long does it take?
Well, I'd imagine, seeing what I've seen so far, I'd imagine every convention probably takes 18 months to organise. So, before last year's For Love of Wrestling happened, they were already organising this year's. And whether that be, because obviously wrestlers' calendars get full very, very quickly. The big names get full very, very quickly. But a lot of the sort of stuff as well, I imagine you've got to hire a lot of the equipment to put these conventions on, which gets booked. So it's a phenomenal amount of work that Andy and all of his team put in to put these conventions on. And the fact that they're able to put on sort of 8 to 10 conventions a year is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know where I'd start with one. I'd just be like, someone will come to my convention. No, okay, let's look at it. So I don't know how did, but I think it's, and Andy will admit this it was funny enough, I was talking to him the other day about like how I was looking through some of the old pictures that he's got around the office and how the quality of some of the pictures have improved. And he was saying, like, he learns as he's going along as well. He'll know to use a certain quality of paper to doing things. He'll know to use certain guests. And like For Love of Wrestling last year, the lineup this year, for me as a wrestling fan, it looks slightly different. I think last year there was wrestling guests from perhaps that a lot of people weren't interested in, and I won't mention any names, but all the way up until The Undertaker. This year, I think what they've tried to do is sort of increase the mean of quality, if you know what I mean. Sort of. So I think that you know, even the sort of there's a lot more balance, I think, gone into all of the guests should interest everybody that's coming this year. But no, it's a phenomenal amount of work. Luckily, they've got a great relationship with a lot of the venues. Full of Wrestling's at Liverpool Exhibition Centre. One of the guys that works with on the team is very heavily involved in that place as well. So they've got a great relationship with them. Great relationship with the WWE as well, which helps things, I imagine. So no, I don't know how he does it. I've got no idea how he does it. But then the man never sleeps. I'm sure he doesn't. I get emails from him at all times of day and night. So I don't think he ever sleeps. But I mean, he just puts his heart and soul into it. But first and foremost, he's a fan. You know, I've been in Andy's office quite a few times, and I've worked with Andy for a while now. And you know, he's got figures himself. He collects like Star Wars figures and wrestling bits and this, that, and the other. He's a fan, and Andy's very, very much been on the other side of the table, and that's why he's able to put on the best conventions in the world, because I think he sees it through the eyes of, well, if I was going to Full of Wrestling today, what would I want to see, rather than right, okay, well, what's going to make me money today, sort of thing. He's got that balance absolutely spot on, which is why it appeals to so many people as well. I think.
So with the whole COVID issue, then I imagine they're just going to have to, because are the guests quite close together? There's like table, like pretty much, and then you have lines going towards them, or.
Well, I suppose the problem is that it's at the Liverpool Exhibition Centre. It's massive, and I think they've probably used about half of it so far. So
okay,
if it meant putting the guests 20 metres apart, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I've seen some meet and greets. There has been this year, not with Full of Wrestling or Monopoly events, I'll make that very clear, but there has been some other companies have tried to put on meets and greets this year. The biggest problem is not about having the guests separated. It's how do you, in a COVID environment, give that 5-star experience that person is paying for. And just the most simple thing is, okay, yeah, it's going to be fantastic to meet Trish Stratus, but I don't want to be 5 meters away from Trish Stratus when I meet her. Do you know what I mean? Or Shawn Michaels. So the first and foremost thing, the biggest question for the convention scene this year is it possible for people to have pictures together? It sounds like a really simple question, but it's a question that's put people off. And Andy's obviously made the decision that, I think for Andy, and I think he's done a couple of live shows talking about it. For him, I think it was always, Monopoly has a certain standard. If I can't provide that standard, then I won't go ahead with the event, because it's not fair. Because it's not fair to the people that are attending, and it's not fair to the guests. So Andy's standards are very, very, very high. And if he can't meet those standards, you know, he won't put an event on, which is fantastic, because you've got that peace of mind when you go to one of his events, that you're gonna get a certain experience. I saw a horrific photo about three or four weeks ago, and somebody had put on a meet and greet with Richard Ayoade. I'm not sure you know, from the IT, all that. So I love Richard Ayoade, travel man as well. He's done all those sorts of things. And Richard was sort of, let's say, he must have done a meet and greet or something like that, and they were doing selfies. And he was about 3 or 4 meters behind this person doing a selfie. And they said, oh yeah, there was a meet and greet with Richard Ayoade or something. I was like, who in the hell's paid for that? And like, the picture looked absolutely horrific. And maybe he's done it because he wanted to, maybe it's for charity, I don't know. But yeah, that's not a picture. That's not a picture I would ever want.
Was it like a head just here?
It was like it was like, do you know, like that Father Ted thing? It was like, is Richard Ayoade really small, or is he just really far away? No, Dougal. And he was like, oh, I was like, he's blinking, yeah. So Richard Ayoade somewhere off in the distance waving.
It's almost like someone trying to take a cheeky photo rather than an actual selfie. You know, when they do that thing where they try and go like.
It was. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it looked a little bit like that. You know, you sort of want to recognize someone doing that.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of people doing meet and greets in the States, because obviously they're not paying attention to the rules half time. But, you know, they're taking pictures together, but they've both got face masks on. Yes. If I've got a picture of a celebrity, I don't want to see their eyes. I want a picture of the celebrity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was Jerry Lawler's. Was it Jerry Lawler's 50th year in wrestling? And so they had they had a big wrestling show weekend, with loads of meet and greets. And Lex Luger, who's very ill, he was there doing a meet and greet with all of his fans, hugging each other and everything. So Lex Luger, who's very, very ill anyway, seemed to see no problem with that. So it was absolutely crazy. I just think that, you know, the whole of the US, like they always do in the US, they just make people, nobody's interested in the truth. They just want to make people choose sides very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And everybody has to be like very extreme one way or the other. But some of the pictures I've seen from America is absolutely insanity. Chris Jericho, to be fair to him, Chris Jericho put a concert on for like 50,000 people or something. And you just
I tried to forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he did his cruise this year, did he? I don't think he did.
No, he cancelled the cruise.
No.
He cancelled the cruise.
That's something I've not done. I'd love to do the Chris Jericho cruise. That must be great fun.
Yeah. So with last year's event, before we move on to talk about next year's, what are some of your personal highlights? What's some of your favourite moments in there?
Oh, so personal highlights over the last year. First WrestleMania last year, that was obviously a big highlight. Getting to meet Jake the Snake, that was a big one. But regards to the Monopoly stuff, a lot of my exhibit, I won't say a lot of it, a lot of my exhibit is made up of Bret Hart stuff. Been a big Bret Hart fan for 30 years. So I always put up almost like one corner of my exhibit. I always sort of dedicate to Bret Hart, including like a signed Hart Foundation singlet with Neidhart, Jimmy Hart and him on there, a little bit of Owen and Bret stuff, the WrestleMania 13 chair signed by Bret, WrestleMania, all those sorts of things. So there's always one corner of mine, and Bret came over to have a look at it and have a chat with me and stuff like that, and I was just like, yeah, this is going to take some beating. So that for me was
amazing.
That was pretty much a personal highlight. We had a little chat together, took a couple of pics. Working with the Undertaker in Germany was just, I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, like that's not something that should be happening to anybody really. And just in being such a cool, laid back guy. I mean, like he's not. There's obviously his Undertaker is a character, but him just being just genuinely cool and just very nice, and also just frightening at the same time. He's quite softly spoken. He's very, very kind. He's very, very warm, but he's got that air of please don't get on the wrong side of me. At the same time, you know. So I mean, but luckily I follow a bit of American football as well, so we had a bit of a chat about that. And yeah, he's just a lovely, lovely, warm guy. So, but I mean, getting to work with the Undertaker for any wrestling fans, a dream come true, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you mentioned to me you did that in our email, I was like, oh, I don't like you very much anymore. I haven't spoken to you yet. Don't like you anymore.
No, that was very, very cool. Very enjoyable.
So, obviously, moving on to next year, because obviously due to COVID, this year's event got cancelled. And what a lineup again for next year. Yeah. It is incredible. So, again, like I did with last year's, just let people know what sort of things they can expect for next year's event.
Right. Well, I think next year's event. Well, I think one of the things you're going to get from next year's event that you didn't get this year is the Friday night wrestling show. So our friends TNT Extreme, they're going to be putting on a wrestling show on the Friday night. So, what better way to open up the weekend than get sort of 600 to 700 wrestling fans in a bar, all watching some amazing wrestling for the weekend. So that's going to be the way that the weekend opens. On the Saturday, we've obviously got the main convention, and I'll talk you through some of the lineup in a minute. The Saturday night, we've got Future Shock putting on a wrestling show again in the same venue. So, yeah, you don't pay anything extra for that wrestling show on the Saturday night. That's completely included with the price of your entry fee on the Saturday. And then we've got an after party as well. And who knows who turns up to that after party? Last year, I think, who turned up to it last year? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think, was it Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Marty Jannetty maybe turned up to the after party last year, which was great fun. Again, and then Sunday, it's back to the convention again for the sort of the day itself. But like I say, when they say the convention, I mean, most people view it as a convention like I used to, whereas I will turn up, I will meet 5 guests, get something signed, say hello, maybe get a picture, and on my way. It's such a small part. Of course, the guests are what attract people to For Love of Wrestling, but it's such a small part when you actually arrive at the place, and you'll just see it's very much like a family environment. You're just there with with 15,000 wrestling fans, and everybody's having the time of their life. Some of the exhibits there, I'm not just talking about my own, some of the exhibits there are absolutely phenomenal. You'll see collections like you won't see anywhere in the world. We've also got loads and loads of stalls, and then the prop builds. So what prop builds have we got next year that have been confirmed? We've got the Spanish announce table, which has obviously been broken. We've got the Firefly Funhouse. We've got that as well. We've got the WCW Nitro stage as well. And we've got the Raw as well. So there'll be loads of them as well. And then obviously the Q&As as well. So right in the centre of the whole convention is a raised wrestling ring, as you would expect. And then every guest will be interviewed in there. And then they take Q&As as well. And it's just a 3-day wrestling party. I mean, you can't get enough. And just to sort of talk you through a little bit of the lineup. So we've got Demolition coming over, which for a fan like myself, who's a Golden Era fan, that's a massive tick in a box. Brutus is coming back over as well. The Dudley Boys are joining us, which is always nice to see. Candice Michelle, who I'm sure adorned many bedroom walls in this sort of attitude period. Earl Hebner. Earl Hebner's going to be
awesome.
And we're going to be doing photos in the ring with the Winged Eagle Championship belt with Earl Hebner. So that'll be a really great photo opportunity. Tugboat or Shockmaster or Fred Ottman or Typhoon, however you want to call him. Fred's joining us. I met Fred at a Hulk Hogan event 5 years ago. Fred is about 6'11", and he's an absolute mountain of a man. But he's the sweetest man in the world. So I can't wait to see Fred again. He's such a sweet guy. JBL's come in. Jeff Hardy. Kenny Omega. So again, a lot of people think it's just a WWE convention, but Kenny Omega's coming over. Kurt Angle's coming over. The Genius, Lanny Poffo, is coming over. Lillian Garcia. Again, Marty Jannetty. IRS is coming over. $1 Million Man's coming over. So we're doing a Money Inc. reunion. Again, the Steiner brothers are coming over as well. Raven's coming over. So that's him. Some guy called Shawn Michaels, who I'm not sure, I'm sure of him.
That indie guy.
Yeah. Tatonka's coming over as well. Ted DiBiase Jr. is meant to be coming over with Ted. Who else have we got coming over? The Nasty Boys. Again, another Golden Era tag team as well.
Oh, amazing. Torrie
Wilson and Trish Stratus. I'll repeat that again. Torrie Wilson and Trish Stratus are both coming over. And Victoria as well. So you may remember... They were only around for about 3 months, but there was almost like a clique together called Vince's Devils, which was Candice Michelle, Victoria, and obviously Torrie Wilson. So you can also have a combo photo with Vince's Devils as well. I mean, so that lineup's not too shoddy. Let's be honest, not too shoddy at all.
It's incredible. And what I love, the thing that is making me go, I need to go to this event, is the fact you've got the barbershop.
Yes. Yeah.
And the fact you've got the Rockers reunited, know that.
No, unfortunately, that's been cancelled.
Oh, has it? Oh.
Yeah. So you can have pictures with Brutus and Marty in the barbershop, and you can have pictures with Shawn Michael. Unfortunately, at this point, we're not able to offer the Rockers reunion in there at all. But you can have, but you cannot. I think we're also looking at doing a Shawn Michaels and Earl Hebner one in the ring as well, so you can almost recreate that Montreal Screwjob photo. There's a few things in the works at the moment as well, but. And again, if people want a certain combo, just call it out. If you can see from our guests that you would like a certain combination of people, then just call it out, and we'll try and make it happen.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
You had me at Shawn Michaels, so.
I mean, yeah. Well, next year I'm hopefully. We're not sure yet. The other two guests who we're just waiting to confirm are Bill Goldberg and Big Show as well. So we're just waiting for those guys to come back to us as well, because they were able to confirm, and then when the November date was announced, they couldn't make that. But now we think they might be able to make next year as well. And also Ken Shamrock is someone else. So they're guys we've announced previously that hopefully we can bring as well. So you wouldn't. And the crazy thing is, and this is the thing I love about For Love of Wrestling, when I've been to other conventions, it's very much like you will go over, you can say hello, you can have your picture, and then that's the last you will probably see of that person all day. if you sort of you sort of turn around and look in any general direction, you will see a wrestler. I remember sort of going to get myself a cup of coffee from our stand, and Bret Hart was stood there having a chat with somebody. And then I was at my exhibition, and I moved out. I saw somebody coming towards me, so I just moved out of the way, and it was just Chris Jericho. He just passed me, went, "Sorry, man, sorry." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem at all." There's just wrestlers everywhere, and then if you just look up, there's obviously somebody doing a Q&A in the ring, and it's just wall-to-wall wrestlers and wrestling fans. It's my idea of heaven. I absolutely love the place.
Incredible. So you've thrown me off with Ken Shamrock. That's amazing. The man is just as intense today as he was back then.
No, he isn't. He isn't. And do you know what's really funny? He and I love it when the wrestlers do this. Somebody put something on one of our. I put a post up about Ken Shamrock, and then you always get that smart mark putting some little snide comment on, and it was something to do with one of his UFC fights, but it got the facts completely wrong. So Ken Shamrock just corrected them. Ken Shamrock just commented and corrected them, and I was like, "That's amazing." So he's just really funny. I think Ken Shamrock's going to be hilarious. We do SoCal Val, who used to be in TNA. She came over to Dusseldorf with us, and we got to have a chat with her because she's obviously very friendly with a lot of the old TNA guys. And so we were saying, well, what can we expect from the Dudley boys? She said, Devon's lovely. She said, Bubba is Bubba. She said, Bubba will be Bubba, and Bubba is always Bubba. He does not turn off me like, right. So I can't wait to see what Bubba's like in real life, because apparently he's equally as intense. Apparently he's absolutely phenomenal with fans, but when he's on sort of thing.
That's amazing. So from yourself as a fan then, what are your hopes for the future with this event? Like what would you like to see? Who would you like to see there and stuff in the future?
Do you know, if money, what would I want to see? I mean, for me, I suppose just that sort of golden era period. So, I suppose if I could have any dream photo, I suppose we talk about this a lot. I suppose for me, it would be Hulk Hogan and Sylvester Stallone. That would be a great combo photo at a convention. Awesome. I think, yeah, the Rocky 3 one. I'd love to see Austin and Bret Hart do a WrestleMania 13 combo. I'd love to see that. Or even the guys from TLC 1. So get TLC, which is get the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys together as a combo photo. That would be pretty cool. But to be honest with you, I think Andy's someone who, like I say, from the conversations I've had with Andy, he's sort of someone who's always open to ideas. If you've got something that you think's a great idea, Andy will always consider it. I mean, he's picked up on a few things that sort of I've suggested before, or that he's asked me about before, and I've sort of let him know. But anything's open, really, really for the future. I know Andy's always looking for that next big thing. He always wants these conventions to improve. It's not enough for him just to put on another event year after year. He wants it to be constantly improving. So God knows what floor wrestling is going to look like in a few years. I'd like to see him keep up the standard. I'd like to see him keep up the surprises, the level of guests, I suppose, as well. But just for I suppose, what I'd really like to see is that fans invest in it, because the more Florida wrestling is successful, just like any business, the more money in the pot, the better it's going to be next year. Do you know what I mean? That's the way any business runs. So, and I hope all the UK and all the European fans, because it's not just the UK, hundreds of European fans from all over Europe come to Florida wrestling. And that's what, this is why I went to Germany for an event. But I hope everybody in Europe really, really appreciates and respects that. You know what? We've now got our own wrestling convention. This is our wrestling convention. And for us, it's a responsibility to sort of, yes, first of all, share it with respect, but just do our best to invest in it as well, and spread the word and make sure everybody knows about it.
Would you ever have a live podcast there?
Would I have a live podcast there? Do you know, I would love to see something like a live podcast there. We've had quite a few people come down and recording podcasts. I would love to see probably somebody like, I mean, if Bruce Pritchard came down and did like something to wrestle with from there, yeah, that'd be very, very cool to see. I'd also like as well, and this is just because I've got this collection. I'd love to see Zack Ryder come over and maybe do some.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, funnily enough, the rest. This is the problem when you buy wrestling merchandise now, because he's got this show. Every time you try and buy an expensive item now, they always tell you that Zack Ryder's interested in it. So when I so it's like, yeah, and it's like, Matt Cordona's trying to buy this, really. Well, he's trying to buy the other 16 items that I've bought this week as well. So, but that's like, if you ever want to try and get more from him, just tell everybody that Zack Ryder's interested in it. So, but I'd love to see him come over and do his podcast as well, because I think he's a very charismatic guy, and I think it would work well. He's got such a social media following. I think it would be good for the convention, and I think he'd have a whale of a time as well.
That's agreed.
That is really cool. Well, I was gonna say, like, if people are like on the fence about coming, please try and sell them on coming. But I don't think you can say much else than you've already said, to be honest.
Not really.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it is, and it's only going to get better. Look out for surprises. Look out for I'll be honest with you, the WWE Superstars event that happened in Manchester last year, that was almost a bit of a last minute thing. It was sort of turned around in maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully the next time the WWE come over, there could be a little bit more planning involved. So it's not just for Love of Wrestling. Look out for perhaps other events that are going on. Look out for Comic Con Northern Ireland, which is going to be a new one we do next year. Comic Con Northeast is going to be one that's happening next year, and obviously the other ones like Comic Con Scotland, all that sort of stuff, because you never know who's going to turn up at these events. They've had Edge at one of the Comic Cons before. They've had Sting. Now that's made me really jealous as well, because I think it's Comic Con Liverpool and Comic Con Manchester got Sting and Edge, and we've not had either of them yet for Love of Wrestling, so I'm quite jealous about that. They would be a dream guest to have across as well.
That's amazing. Right, before we move on, Tom, have you got any other questions you wanted to ask?
I'm clean out.
Wonderful. So, what we like to do with our guests, we have a little game we call the quick fire round, and it's literally 5 questions, and you answer them as quick as you can. Simple as that.
You've been interviewing me now for about an hour, so answering questions quickly isn't something I'm very, very good at.
That's fine.
So I'll give you War and Peace 5 times.
It's absolutely fine.
If you can give me War and Peace and some of these, I'll be quite happy to do
it. It was a full moon. This was Thursday.
Right. Question 1. Favourite pizza topping?
Meat feast. All of the meats.
All of the meats. Good answer. Favourite Christmas movie?
Oh, sugar. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation at a push.
Favourite WrestleMania main event?
Main event? I'll have to get... It wasn't main event. Oh, God, so many of the best ones haven't main evented. I'll go for Andre and Hogan in 3 just because of how iconic it is.
Wonderful. Favourite cartoon when you were growing up?
Turtles.
Great answer.
And last one, favourite face of Mick Foley?
Can I just go for Mick Foley? It's just Mick Foley in general. Santa Claus Mick Foley, the lesser known 4th Mick Foley. Because the guy seems to just spend more time dressed as Father Christmas than he does as actually any of his other gimmicks these days, which is great to see. Actually, I'd say that's a cool piece I've got in my collection. Here's another reason. Come to Love Wrestling to see this. I had like a guitar line about, and it's one of those things like, I think maybe when I was a bit younger, like you obviously have to buy a guitar, because then you're cool. Obviously, learning to play it is the challenge. But as long as you've got a guitar, you can tell girls you're in a band. So I had this sort of, which was like me and my dog. But I had this, so I had it lying around. So when Undertaker came over last year, and on the inside, I ended up going to the Inside the Ropes thing on the Monday night in Manchester as well. And I took my guitar down and thought, do you know what would be really cool to get like Mick Foley to sign it almost as a super group? So he signed it as every one of his creations and Mick Foley. So that you get like a Beatles guitar side. It's like a Mick Foley super group on this guitar. So I sort of just thought of it by accident, but yeah, it's really, really cool. So that's again something you can come down to Liverpool and see. And like I said before, all of the exhibitions, and I'm just one of them, there's loads of them, they are all completely free. Some of them are interactive, and they're all included in the price of your entry ticket.
Incredible.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah, good stuff.
So please tell us, where can we find all about Monopoly events you help with, just anything on the old social medias and the internet? Where can we find everything? It's
a great question, and one that I'm glad you asked. So I recently started helping out on the Insta. So So I'm on the gram because I've got no business. I'm over 40. I've got no business being on the gram, but apparently I am. So for you crazy kids who do Instagram, we are at FTLOW Wrestling. So the initials to For the Love of Wrestling, but wrestling. So FTLOW Wrestling. We are on the Instagram. In regards to Facebook, we're on Twitter as well, For the Love of Wrestling. And then on the Facebook, we are. So we've got loads of pages. We've obviously got a good place to start is Monopoly events or Monopoly signings. But we're on Facebook at For the Love of Wrestling. We've got a page. And we've also got For the Love of Wrestling group as well. So For the Love of Wrestling page is obviously the convention page itself where we put out all the information, all the daily stuff. But we've got a great group where you can share your own stuff. Come in there and have a chat. If you've got the other thing you want to sell, feel free to sell it in there. Just come over and have discussions and banter with everybody as well. But for every one of our events, they've all got their own pages. They've all got their own pages and they've all got their own groups. So stick Monopoly events in, stick For Love of Wrestling in, and you'll soon come across us. I think we seem to get bigger this year. So I think we've probably got, if you're looking for the page, I think it's got about 22,000 followers at the moment. So you'll come across it very quickly.
Nice.
That's amazing. I'm desperate to go to next year's event. So hopefully we can see you there, my friend.
Yes.
Please do. And what would be cool as well is give us a nudge beforehand, and let's catch up. And hopefully at that point, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about what's going to be happening at the show itself. We can talk a little bit more about what people can expect from the wrestling shows, because they're going to be really exciting. And by that stage as well, I'll be able to tell you who's wrestling for, well, those that aren't secret, I'll be able to tell you who's wrestling for TNT on the Friday. Hopefully, tell you who's wrestling for Future Shock on the Saturday. But hopefully, both shows will have a couple of surprises. Last year, we probably had about 2,000 people watching the wrestling show, and it was a battle royale. And then out of nowhere, Pete Dunne decided he was going to
find all this great content and more at the USUK Podcast Network.
Obviously, watching the Bruiserweight wrestle was a dream come true for a lot of people. But that's the sort of thing you can expect at Monopoly events. They're always looking for that little bit extra to make it seem special, and that's the sort of stuff you'll get. But no, catch up with me later, guys, and we'll talk through on all that sort of stuff. And obviously come down and see the exhibition as well.
Yeah, we'll be there. Don't you worry.
Hopefully we could see you there, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you, James, man.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Cheers, Tom. Cheers, guys.
Take care. See you later, man.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.